ladies and gentlemen. Now I have to put on a speaker's hat, and I hope Emmeline deals with me with very soft gloves, because if she starts punching me, it will be a different story. I know what she can do. So the theme hasn't changed. It's still what? Leaving no one behind in learning and development, and then the practicalities. I've had several people approach me, and even today, I've had people who approached me and said, we've been training, but with this new L&D, what do we do? Some will tell you our titles have been changed to L&D, but it seems nothing has changed. What we do is push training. So what do we do? So we are going to give you a glimpse of what you can do, because 10 minutes is something it can take you 3 days to take people through. But I just have 10 minutes. But I'll try at least to, touch on them so that later you can deep dive into them. Thank you. The second slide, please. So L&D and organizational learning, what is next? This morning we've had a lot, isn't it? From the welcome address through to the speakers. What is next? For all what we've heard, when it comes to practically applying L&D or managing L&D or facilitating L&D, what is next? Let's just do a moment of reflection. Slide 2, please. Let's do a moment of reflection. Okay. What is the current role of L&D in your operational space? Because your space may be a consulting role, it may be in an organization, it may be a freelancer, it could be an associate. We play various roles in facilitating learning for people. The first question I would like to ask is that, do you have a solid learning strategy? Are you a value adder or an order taker? Does your organization leadership see you as just exhausting the budget, or they see you as adding value to the organization? Do you have any data to support you? Do you have any evidence to support your case that you are a value adder and not just cost center within the organization? Because if you're a cost center, what will happen is that anytime the budget needs to be slashed, you are the first point of call, whether you like it or not. They don't even consult you. They'll tell you your budget has been slashed. Is there a need for a change? Looking at your context, looking at your circumstances, do you think there's a need for a change? If there is, what do you think you wish to do differently? Or you want to remain same? And if you want to do something differently, what is stopping you and what is urging you on? And if you've been able to analyze these questions carefully, the next thing is, what is next? Now let us look at the reality we find ourselves in. The first reality is the changing workplace dynamics. The working patterns have even changed. We have hybrid, we have virtual, we have in-person, we have a distributed workforce. Sometimes even managers are confused. Who is on duty today, who is in today, and who is out? We have different generations. For the first time, we have almost all the generation groups present in, the workspace. You have my senior brothers, the traditionalists, who refuse to go. They will tell you, oh, I'm doing a contract. I'm a consultant. They won't leave the space for the younger ones to come. They also need to survive. And their modus operandus is different from what the digital age ones are doing. Then you have my type, who have just left but are still old school, the baby boomers. And then you have your Generation X, you have your Generation Y, you have your Generation Z. And at the end of the day, whatever you plan as learning, the learning agenda should be inclusive of all these groups. So the working style is different. The people in it are different. They belong to different categories. Even their learning styles are different. Some people will just want to learn on their mobile phone. Others will still want what we are doing now. Some people will just want to listen to podcasts. Some people actually want to learn on the job, hands-on, on a project. But at the end of the day, you need to identify all these various differences to be able to address their needs. So then, what next? What are some of the actions we need to take? We need to maintain a goal. And that goal, the overarching goal, is that our organizations have to thrive, isn't it? No organization wants to remain stagnant. They want to move forward. And if you listen to what Dr. Bankole said and even the other presenters, learning is the way. If you even listen to the keynote address, if you don't learn, you wouldn't know what to do. And the environment is changing very fast. So yesterday's skills may not be good for today's skills, let alone tomorrow's. So we always need to be ahead of the game. Now, we must also have an acceptance and adaptation to post-pandemic happenings. When the pandemic came, for the first time in Africa, we got to know you can work from home. Workers have enjoyed it for over 1 year. Now you are saying they should come Monday to Friday. Before the pandemic, it could take you 45 minutes from Tema to Accra. I don't know what has happened. Now it can take you about 3 hours to get to Accra. And we don't expect that same worker who knows that you can work from home. It is possible. You know, previously, it was said that it was not possible looking at our circumstances. Now we know it is doable. So why don't you give me some chance so that I can work from home for certain days and then work from the office for certain days? I can learn from home from certain days, learn from the office on certain days. I can learn anywhere, anytime at my point of need. So then that leads us to next. What next? To be learner focused. In planning our learning, budget or no budget, we need to be what? Learner focused. And whatever we prepare with the learner, we don't prepare for the learner. This time we prepare with the learner. Should what? Align with what? The experiences they need to be able to perform work. So that takes us to what? Upscaling, as was discussed in the morning, and then reskilling. Because, as I said, the skills that they used yesterday, when there was no Zooming, there was nothing, it's quite different from what? The skills that they need today. For some people, we need to upgrade them so that they can take higher positions, so that we stop recruiting from outside, but be able to develop, home grow our own, so that they also, know they have an opportunity to get somewhere one day. But for some people, when they look at where they are now, it's like promotion is zero. So why don't I look for somewhere else to go? Look for the next ship to jump onto, either America, the US, UAE, or somewhere that, there's a bigger space to operate and I can get better money, even if I don't get a higher position. So that is where we find ourselves in. And these are some of the actions we need to take. Now, in aligning with our organizations, at the end of the day, if L&D doesn't align the learning to the organization strategy, what are you doing? Because you are there to serve a purpose. We are there to facilitate learning so that people will be able to develop and perform their tasks seamlessly so that the organizations can thrive. The day that we used to say, because of COVID, we are now responding, we are now recovering. We've recovered for too long. Although our governments seem to behave that we haven't recovered, we are still there. For L&D, we can't say that. We need to move ahead. So by now, we should have what? Responded to COVID, we should have recovered from COVID, and we should be thinking of ways and means we can help our organizations to thrive. Now, in doing that, what are some of the actions we need to take? We need to, first of all, recognize the organization's strategic priorities. Are we aware of the strategies of our organization for the next 1 year, from January to December this year? That is the short term. Are we aware of what? The organization's strategy for the next 2 years, and then for the long term, the next 5 years? Because you need to be in the known of these things to be able to plan what learning people need to do to be able to perform their task as well as what? Progress their career. So we need to link up with why learning matters. Why learning matters is the strategy of the organization. That is where learning matters. And why learning matters is where people want to go. What is their career direction? And we need to involve every stakeholder, include the manager. Most often we do these things by passing the managers, but it is critical. We need leadership, we need the managers, we need the learning service providers, and we need the learners themselves. Learner engagement is critical now than ever. Because now you can't just push anything over to the learner. The learner wants to pull what he or she needs to learn. So in doing that, we need to accurately diagnose performance challenges. What are their challenges? What do we do? What does L&D do with all these performance appraisals? Do we bother to find out what the challenges are that can be addressed with learning? It is key. If we haven't, we need to start now. What are the organization's compliance and regulatory requirements that employees need to update it on? When you look at their various professional bodies,
he gives everybody reads about it, which is just 1 or 2 pages, and then
it is also it. It's okay. Okay. When you look at the professional associations they belong to, like the ACCAs, the Ghana Institute for Engineers, what are their updated standards? We need to help our people pull all these knowledge and skills and then be able to work with it. We need to ensure availability of a variety of learning solutions. If you are just relying on training today, then, you belong to yesterday. Because now you even apply for a public training and the service provider will tell you, I'm sorry, we didn't get enough participants, so the training didn't come on. Now this employee needs this knowledge and skills to be able to perform his task. So if for 10 years, the learning service provider doesn't get enough people to run the course, what happens? So we need to start looking at a variety of ways our people can learn. And we need to make sure there are loads of them. Now, being learner-focused also requires some actions, because now we don't focus on training. We focus on learning. So I don't even believe in training objectives. The focus is not on the trainer. The focus is on the learner. So what are the learning objectives for whatever learning solution you are providing? And normally you need to do a needs analysis so that at the end of the day, it's not something you are pushing on them, but something that they see as a need. So customer care comes in, customer experience management comes in. You need to know their touch points, the customer touch points, and address those points in their learning journeys. Now, if you don't know their expectations, how would you meet them and even, go beyond that? So the age-old focus group discussion should not be done away with. We need to maintain whichever way we can as a means of a learner engagement to be able to diagnose their real needs and then address those needs. Now, being learning focused, it's also what? Focus on their needs, the needs of their environment, their context. If the learner is somewhere or he lives somewhere that electricity is not reliable, the internet, forget about the internet, the phone network itself is always 1 bar. And you push e-learning and tell the person to do it from home. How will that person be able to do it? We also need to factor in diversity of learning styles, diversity in terms of the age groups, because each age group or each, talking about the baby boomers and not, each of them have a peculiar way they want to learn. So make sure there's this variety so that each of them can get what can help them. And you need to manage the whole customer experience and make sure you optimize your offerings using the 70-20-10 approach. And when we talk about 70-20-10, it means 70% of what the people learn should be through the flow of work, on the job. And then 20% from each other, either through coaching, mentoring, reverse coaching, reverse mentoring, one-on-one, projects, stretch assignments, anything that they will have to discuss with others, collaborative learning, social learning. Cynthia has just gone upstairs. She organizes a lot of social learning whereby she has a group called the HR platform, HR network, and most of the learning activities are pushed through WhatsApp, and you'll be surprised. They have the HR bar. She's a commander there. They have the HR bar, and what HR bar and what else do you have? That's it. And so they come there and they have their drinks and they learn, serious learning. You know, you have about 300 people learning at the same time through WhatsApp. So you need to optimize, and then 10%. These days, you can't give more than 10% to formal learning, because if you are waiting for someone to train you before you get the knowledge and skills you are looking for, you take forever. So we just use 10%, because we shouldn't also forget that we have all these certification requirements and things that you can't do through the on-the-job learning and the coaching and mentoring. So we still have to maintain the 10% formal learning, either through e-learning, virtual learning, online learning, face-to-face, and all others. Now, we need to also boost learning with each other through the flow of work. We must be ready. We need to encourage. We need to motivate people to help others learn on the job. And we also need to atomize the learning content. The days of running a 5-day program nonstop is getting in the past, because at the end of the day, how much can the learner accumulate and go and practice? So these days, we believe in atomizing the learning. Even if you can do a bite size that the person can just take and swallow and digest and apply it, then another time they continue is better. Or breaking courses into models so that you do 1-day model, you know, they go and practice it, and then they come back. So these are some of the actions we require if we want to be what? Learner-focused. Now, these are some of the things we must also do. We must focus on the moment of the need. You know, they are not academic citizens whereby they learn for the future. They want something they can use right now. And adult learning principles will tell you that the adult wants to learn something that he or she is going to apply right now, not something that they are going to store in the future. They want to know what they can apply now before even thinking about what they can store for the future. They need what? Easy access, speed, and agility when it comes to learning. So you need things like your learning resource centers, you need knowledge management systems, you need various links. So if the learner says, I need this, L&D must be able to send them a link straight away to either Coursera or to any of the platforms that you can really pull out what they need. That's the kind of support they need from you. We need to ensure collaboration so that they learn from each other. You have so much knowledge investment within organizations we are not tapping on. It's just giving them a bit of what? The training culture or the facilitation culture, and they will be able to deliver to others. We also need to ensure we personalize learning, because no two people have the same challenges in their performance. So each of them needs something different they can learn. Even the same content can be repackaged differently for people so that each of them gets what they need. And we need to optimize the customer experience. Most often, it's like we are so busy, we hardly engage our learners. And we need to ensure whatever solutions we have there are scalable. It's something, you know, we can spread out for a lot more people to do. And that brings in the question of digitalization. If it's digitalized, you know, a lot of people can access it at the same time. So if you focus on the learner, then you need to look at what individually their learning journeys need to be. But before you can even think about the learning journeys, you need to first of all think about what the modern learner wants to learn. What yesterday's learner wants to learn is not the same thing as what today's learner has to learn. For us, the old school ones, we find it difficult to adjust, but we are trying to do so, you know. So they want flexibility to pull out solutions. You know, the old school, we push solutions. But when it comes to modern learning, they want to pull it at their point of need. They want learning on the go. As soon as they want it, it happens just like that, you know. So they want a shift to self-directed learning so that you don't go for this training Your manager says he's approved this training. Whether the person needs it or not, is approved. The budget must be used. No. Help the individual to identify what their needs are. And before you can do that professionally, you must have a great assessment procedure for identifying needs. You may need to have something like a competency management framework whereby you have what? The behaviors that are needed, what proficiency levels that needs to be attained. So if you want someone maybe an entry level to have an awareness level, a knowledge level, what are the behaviors that needs to be demonstrated? So it's based on those behaviors that you come out with that person and together put a package for him or her as a solution to learn. There is also a penetration of virtual learning, and they love it. Now, your organization needs to think about it. In terms of security and everything, would you like your people to bring their own devices so that they can capture or link up to whatever they want to learn? That brings another challenge. If your learning system, it's an integrated system with the core HR systems, sometimes we have a challenge. Look at the way, these hackers are breaking into systems. So most of it is advisable that the HR system will be there, all right. But then you need a learning system whereby you have a learning management, you have a competency management, and then you have what? A knowledge management by the side. But then these systems must be able to talk to the main HR system so that you reduce the risk of, outsiders, penetrating into your HR records with all your compensation records and all those things there. Now, in creating an effective learning journey for that individual that you want to focus on as a learner, you need to look at the big picture. What are the skills the organization needs? What is the career direction of that person? And you marry the two, because the moment there's no balance and you let one side suffer, you have what? A deficit. So we need to make sure there is what? That balance. So you look at the big picture and you include all stakeholders, because when it comes to approval, you need your management. When it comes to supervision, you need your line managers and supervisors. And then the learner, you can't force him to learn. So you need to agree with him on certain things before the learning starts. And you need to make sure you provide the support systems and resources that is needed. In today's learning environment, L&D does not always, curate learning or, go sorting out for training, but then make sure there's that enabling environment whereby all the resources that the individual needs to learn effectively are available. So if you have all that available, you have your strategy, it's aligned to the organization strategy, then you can think about upscaling. I'm almost done here. You can think about upscaling and rescaling for optimum performance. And here you need to look at what? The training dynamics. You need to ask yourself, what is the rescaling for? What is the upscaling for? Why do you want to upgrade that individual? When that individual finishes, are there opportunities for that person to practice? If there's not a promotion available, are there projects that person can stay on so that they can practice their skills? Because nothing is, more frustrating than when you have learnt and you have nowhere to practice. Now, what are some of the steps we need to follow in, ensuring upscaling and rescaling are effective? We need to identify the key future skills that the individuals need to learn. We need to assess those skills. We need to set upskilling goals or rescaling goals. And we need to map learning solutions to these goals. And then we need to monitor and measure. Since they say my time is up, I think I will end here. Thank you. But my takeaways then are: focus on improving business performance, because every business owner wants business performance. Focus on relevant learning aligned to the business priorities. Focus on fostering a culture of learning. Focus on employee performance needs and career development. Focus on individual learning journeys. Focus on rescaling and upscaling. Focus on optimizing learning offerings. And then focus on leveraging digital solutions. Thank you.
There are more questions than answers. Pictures